Sometimes the truth is gut-wrenching and life-changing. Talking about someone's death is extremely difficult no matter what the circumstance. With so many theories out there for public consumption, I want to take a moment to give sincere condolences to Allison, the Rivera family, and all those who knew and loved Rey Rivera. The 6 determinations for cause of death are natural, accidental, suicide, homicide, undetermined, and pending. Currently, the Rey Rivera case is classified as undetermined. Unconvinced that her husband committed suicide, Allison spoke privately with a medical examiner about her findings. She told Allison, and I quote, "I know what they are trying to do, and we're not closing this case. The injuries are consistent with a fall from height, but the breaks in the tibia and fibula are not. What I am going to say is based on many hours of research, information gathering, and reading hundreds of blogs promoting theories from aliens to CIA cover-ups. It brings some solace to think of all the people that want justice for Rey. Out of all the information, one small piece of copy sticks in my soul. It is so small that it barely deems mentioning, but the devil is in the details, they say. I'm not accusing anyone or any entity of committing this crime. I am merely following the breadcrumbs, and without more substantial evidence, this case will remain unsolved." William Bonner, founder and president of Agora Publishing, the parent company for Porter Stansberry and Associates, made a comment concerning Rey Rivera's death. And I quote, "His death had nothing to do with Agora Publishing or the SEC investigation. He took his own life because of personal issues he was struggling with," unquote. We know that Bonner called Porter Stansberry about Rey's death and could only have drawn these conclusions from talking to Porter. But here's the rub. Porter told everyone that would listen that his friend Rey was a happy-go-lucky, upbeat guy with plans for the future, including an upcoming vacation with his wife, Allison. Why would Stansberry tell Bonner that Rey took his own life because of personal issues he was struggling with? It's a subtle piece of misdirection with catastrophic implications. It's about public perception, which leads to item number 2. The call Rey made to Porter Stansberry after church a week or so before he went missing. Allison recalls that Rey got Porter's voicemail and left this message: "Hey man, I just figured it all out. Call me back." But Porter never did. Weeks later, when the police asked Stansberry what Rey meant, Porter said he did not understand the voicemail and had no idea what Rey was talking about. Again, subtle misdirection. Why did Porter Stansberry, a wealthy businessman, only offer a $1,000 reward for his best friend, yet, after some PR pushback, raises it to $5,000 and hires a private investigator? Again, the key is public perception. After Rey's body was found, Porter issues a company-wide gag order to his employees. No information in or out. He doesn't want Rey's death bringing negative attention or scrutiny down on the company. I guess Porter needs to define what the term best friend means. He also discontinues dialogue with Allison and distances himself from the death of his best friend. It starts to paint a picture of self-preservation at all costs. When Stansberry heard the Netflix unsolved mystery case was going to run, he sought an injunction to prevent the show from airing. The reason he gave, it put he and his company in a negative light. Maybe Porter is afraid too. From the moment Rey began working for Stansberry, he was introduced to the world of high-stakes stock trading and its cast of powerful characters. Porter was great at weaving stories of powerful political intrigue, along with financial empires that ruled the world via the stock market. Most of the people in these stories had ties to Freemasonry and secret societies dating all the way back to the Founding Fathers. This was fascinating to Rey, who had little knowledge of power structures and how they worked in society. He just wanted to work the job, earn enough money to marry his fiancée, Allison Jones. Stansberry put him to work writing about potential stock tips for investors on Stansberry's client list. Rey was a good enough writer, but clearly uncomfortable giving investment tips to strangers about something he knew nothing about. You know who wasn't uncomfortable? Porter Stansberry. Why would someone who is so concerned with public image give this job to a novice with SEC allegations hanging over the company? Along the way, Rey became familiar with alleged stories of people being marginalized and even killed for exposing secrets that could damage powerful people or entities. At some point, Rey became paranoid about the things he had seen and heard while working in the office as a tipster. I think he began to keep a log on his computer and was probably compromised by a co-worker. He needed a way to ease out of the company and decided to become a videographer and do film projects for Stansberry and other companies as a subcontractor. I think Rey was interested in Freemasons because he thought it would lead to financial opportunities and because he thought being on the inside would make him less likely to be marginalized or eliminated. Rey knew something and was definitely afraid for he and his wife's safety.
No lawyer has ever left your law firm alive.
This is why Allison begins to see paranoia and personality changes in Rey.
In this man's eyes scared me to death.
This causes Rey to craft a mysterious note found on the back of the computer at his house. It is a coded note and on the surface makes no sense without the primer.
What's the primer?
A link to the primer within the document is probably on his laptop, both of which were reason enough for attempted break-ins. After his death, there were repeated calls to the police station by an anonymous caller to obtain Rey's laptop. Rey had mentioned to someone at Stansberry & Associates that Allison was going out of town. It was then a plot was hatched to lure him to the office, as most of the employees were out of town on a retreat, so they could break in and get his computer. But what they didn't count on was Claudia, Allison's friend, staying the night in the guest room. When he received the call from Agora, it was important enough for him to drop everything and rush out. A strange feeling inside causes him to come back home briefly and retrieve the penny with the heart that Allison had given him as a reminder that she was always with him. Upon arriving at the office, he is greeted by 3 men claiming to be security for the firm. They take his cell and push him into a chair and begin to pressure him about sensitive material he had on his computer. With threats ratcheting up, they begin to threaten Rey's wife and goad him with, "We know where she is staying."
I've told you about the briefest did.
If this thing reaches as deep and goes as high as we think it does, these men will do anything not to be exposed.
They continue pressuring him to turn over any information he has collected. Rey insists he is just working on a screenplay and that the information gathered is fictitious, but in reality, he probably had dirt on a lot of powerful people. At some point, Rey is mildly afraid, thinking to himself, this is Porter's pathway to initiation in Freemasons, similar to the movie The Game.
This is your game, Nicholas, and welcome to it. I'm here to let you in on a few ground rules.
There would be many tests before this thing was over. Interestingly enough, the name Porter is mentioned many times in the hidden note, as well as the movie, The Game.
I'm here to let you in on a few ground rules.
The note keys in on technologies within his lifetime. Could this be the groundwork for insider trading allegations from past and present that he had become aware of while working there? Some of the items listed are radio frequency identification, hybrid engines, digital music players, portable data assistant, flash drives, computer operating systems, horizontal drilling, Sudoku, Human Genome Project, Viagra, Invisalign, Da Vinci Surgical Robot, Plavix, Lipitor, Aprexia, Nexium, Prevacid, Zoloft, to name a few. There is a possibility that early warning signs of predatory loans propping up the housing market were being pushed in investment newsletters by Stansberry and Associate. But whatever they believed he had on them, it was critical enough to take drastic measures. At some point during the interrogation, they let him go, but keep his cell phone, not wanting escalation in the Agora offices. But Ray is now more nervous, and he begins to fast walk towards his car a few blocks away. Looking back, he notices two of them are following him. It's then he starts a slow jog and ducks into the Belvedere parking structure and heads for the roof via the ramps, not taking the stairway. About halfway up, a car begins traversing the garage toward the direction he is walking. Now he begins running. The following events are fiction and not supported by the findings of law enforcement. This theory is based on an accumulation of circumstantial evidence that would not hold up in a court of law. Upon reaching the roof, he realizes there is nowhere to run. And as he contemplates taking the stairway down, one of the men comes out of the doorway with a bat. Soon after, the car appears, and from the passenger side gets out, heeled with a metal pipe. Ray's first thought is to jump down onto the roof of the old swimming pool and racket court of the Belvedere and escape through the roof exit of the Owl Bar. His mind flashes to times spent there with Allison and co-workers, happier times, ignorant times. He couldn't call anyone. They had kept his cell phone as a means of extortion. He runs to the far end to see if any people might be passing by down below. It's then the car speeds up and clips him in the right leg, causing him to tumble. Now, it's fight or flight. He limps over to the handrail and without hesitation climbs over. This causes skid marks on the flip-flops. He hangs for a moment, letting his 6'5" frame dangle, and then lets go, turning a 20-foot drop into an 11.5-foot drop. The landing is hard and he feels immediate pain in his left ankle and foot. But he makes it to his feet and hobbles toward the Albar roof exit, leaving behind a broken flip-flop that was torn in the fall along with his sunglasses. As he reaches the door, he finds it is locked. He can't help thinking, this door is never locked during business hours. He had been out on the roof several times with the bartender who would step out for a smoke when things were slow. Turning, he sees that two of the men have dropped down onto the roof to come after him. Kicking off his other flip-flop, he lifts himself up onto the higher elevation of the roof, directly over the Owl Bar. By now, he is looking for anything he can find to defend himself with. And in the corner, there is a 4-foot piece of pipe made out of old metal sprinkler pipe. He stands and faces the two men. They start up again with threats and innuendo. All the while he is thinking, in the game no one got seriously hurt. It was all an illusion, but these guys have blood in their eyes. Then out of nowhere a third guy appears from the area of the Owl Bar exit. 3 is going to be hard, he thought. Ray nails the first guy in the ribs and sends him to his knees. This caused guy number 3 to climb up and enter into the ambush. While fending them off, the fallen comrade has crept up behind Ray and hits him in the groin with a shot that nearly cripples him. Then they start in on him with the bat and the chain, first to the ribs and then to the legs. After some moments had passed, they circle him like wolves looking for a sign of resistance so they can start in again. Laying there, I am thinking of my family and my wife. and the first time I kissed Allison. I will never forget it, the smell, the place, the warmth, and the softness of her lips, the scent of that particular lip gloss that melted into my mouth with her embrace. In the background, faintly, it sounds like music coming from the owl bar. Is it possible he left the door ajar in his haste to come and teach me a lesson? If I could make it to the door, I will have passed the initiation. Game over. But first, must collect myself and gather my strength. A short run and a 5-foot drop and it's game over. From my knees, I rise up slowly with the intent of pouring myself over the ledge. As I stumble forward through the gauntlet, the music from the owl bar is calling me home. As I make it to the edge, I am sent on my way with one more shot to the back of my skull, propelling my leap upward and onward. Time is a funny thing. There is a gradual occurrence that nobody pays much attention to, the process of perfect order becoming chaos. Years of heat and moisture slowly breaking down at the molecular level. The moisture of the pool along with the heat over time compromise the interior structure of the roof, creating a weak spot. As it happens, 265 pounds was enough force to cause the structure to fail. Can't rule out the possibility that Ray started the hole and they finished it. Either way, with a badly beaten body, the fall through the roof was enough to puncture his heart, fracture his face and neck, create a compound fracture in his leg, raid his lungs, break his jaw, tear up his torso, break his pelvis, and take his life. When the hole was discovered, his cell phone and glasses were laying nearby. His flip-flops were maybe 50 feet apart, but nobody dusted the phone for prints. In Part 3, we will field the top 10 scenarios for Ray's death as posted by the legion of people who care about finding the truth of what happened to Rey Rivera.